Perfect. We're back. So what do you think, buddy? Want to get into it here?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's do it.
You're recording again?
Absolutely.
You got pulled up what you need pulled up?
Yeah, but I seem to be missing. Go for it. You're fine.
This is going to be interesting. In the spirit of honesty, everybody, this is a re-record from, what, 2 weeks ago?
More than a month ago.
More like a month ago?
Yeah. Take two.
I thought I put it on it. 129. No, I must have got that day wrong. Anyways, a month ago. John and I got into one here that didn't quite turn out the way we had hoped, so we're gonna retry today and see if we can have slightly more coherent thoughts.
Right.
Welcome everybody to the I Shower After Work podcast. John and I are once again in both the East and West Side job trailers. As usual, my man, how are you?
I'm fantastic, my man. How are you doing?
Not too bad, buddy. I've given up on saying how was your week because recently we've been doing some midweek records here until we're back together.
Yeah, we haven't talked in a couple weeks now.
But... Yeah, and this will be the second that probably gets put out, but I'm sure I'll mention it in the other one too, folks.
Yep.
Sorry we had a little break there. John is completely innocent. I was sick as a dog 1 week. My immune system just fucking called in sick to work, and the other week I was busy with work and couldn't get home at a reasonable time, which we did not get a chance to talk about before we started, buddy. I'll tell you later. That did not go my way. No.
It never does.
But public service announcement. Be aware that the opinions involved in today's episode are strictly that of the hosts and the hosts alone, and in no way are the opinions of any third party. We will be trying to walk a fine line during this episode, so if you notice a few more pauses than normal while we solidify a coherent thought, bear with us. And should today's subject not be a subject you want to hear about, that's totally cool. We understand. We'll be back again next week with a new subject. But today, John and I are going to talk about the Second Amendment.
Yeah. Yeah,
so, buddy, we know it's divisive, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a serious talk. We don't have too many on here. We try to keep it pretty lighthearted, but there are things that we want to talk about that we deem necessary, and fuck it, it's our podcast.
Right. And the state of the world right now and how things are going, we thought would remind people of some facts they need to keep in mind as we go ahead here. Getting started here, buddy. What are your thoughts on what is going to be considered a responsible gun owner?
For me, myself, when I think about a responsible gun owner is a person that is well educated in the firearms that they own. They know how everything works mechanically. They know how to store them. They know how to take care of them. They understand the laws, rules, and regulations behind it, what they can and cannot do, what they should and should not do. So it's a very broad question that you asked, because it gets really murky really fast when you start talking about, is a guy or is a person sitting there with their firearm on the coffee table being a responsible gun owner?
Depends on your position.
I can imagine that there are police officers out there that put their sidearm, if they're allowed to take them home, they probably put them on their nightstand in case they have an emergency call.
Right.
That's still responsible to me.
Yeah, there are a ton of gray areas, and they all seem to depend on what you have, why you have them, and what you intend to do with it.
Right.
So I agree with what you said. My only caveat would be I would have included the word safely about 5 times in your description. But in the spirit of that, just know, folks, when we say these things, the word safely is implied. But safely store, safely use, safely clean, right? Yep. It's implied going forward for the rest of the episode. Of course, John and I both believe in that. So I shouldn't put words in your mouth. I assume you do, buddy.
Well, I'd fucking hope so.
Before we get rocking and rolling here, do you have the actual words up in front of you for the Second Amendment?
Absolutely, I do.
Lay it on us, buddy.
So the Second Amendment, it's pretty short, simple, to the point. Like, it is zero black or zero gray. Okay. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so what does that mean? It was put in place shortly after we split off from the king. We basically said, right after the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech, and
which we
religion.
are going to get into in a couple weeks.
Right. So right after number one of being able to say what you want, voicing your opinion and being heard, is we carry the right in order to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. That is what the Second Amendment is for, right? It is for government overreach, making sure that we, the people, stay in control of our government, which we can get into that in another subject. I don't fully think that we're there, but it's pretty clear cut. It doesn't sit there and say, "Oh, you can just carry your firearm wherever you want and take it wherever you want and take it in whatever building you want, and you have every right to just do whatever you want with a firearm." It's not what it's saying.
And a little fair warning before we dig in here. I just realized I should mention this. I am, along with John, I am a firearm owner for hunting, for home defense. I am not anti-Second Amendment. I'm actually very much behind it if it's followed too close to the letter of how it's written. And yes, I'm not anti-gun, but John is a born and bred citizen of the States. I'm going to steel man a few devil's advocate positions as we go on, folks. Don't think that I'm trying to argue against guns, but we need to look at both sides of this going forward to be fair. I need to ask some honest questions occasionally. I'm not all anti-gun, just be aware.
Yep.
So that being said, the tyrannical government, that part of it gets left out so quickly by a lot of people because what I heard so many times after coming to the States was the only part I heard was Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
Yep.
Nobody ever brings up those other points so many times as I've heard it.
Right.
And I think the amendment to a point has been bastardized a little for people who just want to have a bunch of firearms, which again, I'm not against.
And we both know people that collect firearms, right? Like I know several people actually that collect firearms, and they collect them for nostalgia purposes. Really, their collection ranges from modern firearms to old school muskets and all that. They're aficionados, I guess is the right word. Enthusiasts.
Perfect word, actually.
Right.
And you pronounced it right the first time, which is important.
Yeah, I had to think about.
After the first time we recorded, again, I was able to solidify a few more thoughts in a better way, which is why we re-recorded this one, or we are right now. There are, what I can tell is four different groups of people who have a lot of firearms or multiple firearms. All right. Regular hunter home defense citizens like you and I, people who it's part of their job, whether it's military or police, anything like that, security services, people who are legit collectors, and then people who have guns for fun.
Yep.
I did not want to include a gray area fifth group where it's people who are actually consider themselves some sort of militia.
Right.
My opinion on how they think about things, I wouldn't even vocalize because I don't know that I can understand that attitude. I can at least understand the other four.
So if I go devil's advocate on you a little bit and
Yeah.
ask the question, what do you think if I say to you, you and I own firearms, we are part of a militia?
No, I disagree with that. How am I? Explain to me how you believe I am. I'm willing to hear you out here.
Would you ever be willing, in order to keep your freedoms, in order to keep your family safe, would you bear arms against somebody or a group that was trying to oppress and damage and cause unsafe situations to you or your loved ones?
A lot of caveats there, buddy, but grand scheme of things, certainly I would. But from my perspective, when you made your explanation there, I wasn't thinking of if the government showed up or a police force showed up and I thought they were overreaching. My first reaction would certainly not be to defend my family in that way. But I see what you're getting at. Okay. I was thinking of defending myself against a militia actually when you said it. But again, it's all about perspective, right? Someone who's in a quote unquote militia might feel the way you do about the government or a police force or whatever. At this point in my life, no, not those things, but a random group, a random individual, a handful of people coming and intending me harm. That's the whole idea.
And I say it that way because that is the basis of the Second Amendment, right? And there's conversations, there's recordings, there's interviews, and that's one of the reasons that keeps our country as safe as it is from outside people. Nobody can account. What's the old adage? America has a gun behind every blade of grass.
I've never heard that, but
There's
we're gonna jump into the numbers here in a minute
right.
about how many they speculate are owned by Americans.
And that's the deal of what it helps keep America so safe is there's a lot of countries and there's a lot of people out there that don't like us. And it's just if they try to come onto our land, they're not only going to have to deal with our military, they're going to have to deal with a lot of, and God forbid you try to take us from the South.
So let me jump in here, okay, buddy? As always, folks, we try to get our information and statistics from the most reputable sources possible. This comes from AmericanGunFacts.com.
Yep.
It's a hair old, but pretty close. There's an estimated number near 400 million guns in the United States between police, military, and civilian citizens. The estimate was that over 393 million, so slightly over 98% of those guns were in civilian hands, which mathematically equals out to about 120 firearms for every 100 citizens. Every citizen per capita owns 1.2 firearms. Clearly, you can't own 0.2 of a firearm.
Right.
So that means there's certainly a lot of people who are in the multiple category, as we've admitted, we both are, and then people who have nothing at all. Just wanted to throw that out there to get a vague idea. That was from 2017. I presume the number has gone up quite a bit because on the same website as of 2024, that number went up to 466 million due to, and I quote, record-breaking sales during the pandemic.
Yep.
Let's jump off on that part of the topic.
Because people were going fucking stupid. Okay.
I don't want to use the word liberal because lots of people who are liberal own firearms and like to hunt and things like that. I had lots of friends of mine, not lots, I had a handful get a hold of me during the second 6 months of the pandemic when things started to get wild, saying, how hard is it to get a firearm? First of all, don't call me. I'm here in a green card. I don't want to have conversations with you over the phone about firearms. But just so you know, you apply for a permit to purchase in however your state or county deals accessible and legal, and then you just follow what they tell you to do.
Yeah,
it's
you follow the rules.
Like, okay, you want to listen into what listen in. I'm happy to be here. Like, as of the date of this recording, I've almost finished, and this will be news to John, filling out all the paperwork and providing all the documentation to apply for my American citizenship.
It's fantastic.
I look forward very soon, folks, to wearing an American flag t-shirt, non-ironically.
I just want to say it's about fucking time.
It's taken a while. It was nothing for the and for the people from immigration who listen to this and bring it up at my immigration meeting. It was just procrastination. I love living in the States. That's a fact.
Yeah, you really do.
But back on track, folks.
So another number I just found, I don't mean to cut you off here.
Oh, go ahead.
The estimate suggests in 2026, there is 500 million civilian owned firearms in the US, which means there are more guns than people.
Yeah, by a significant number, about 140 million.
Yep.
That includes babies, people in comas. That's everybody.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big number. And just to double down quick, I know we mentioned it during the pandemic, but I had one number I just want to say here. They believe that nearly 1 in 5 American households purchased a first or additional firearm during March 2020 and March 2022. So over a 2-year period, that number spiked, to say the least.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's because everybody was going nuts and the state of the country that we were in, and people were seeing there's other factors that played into that during the pandemic. But I think it was social media helped it. News outlets helped it. It spread chaos, right? Like you saw all of the bad things happening all of the time. I don't know about you, but my feed, my My social media feed was just absolutely disgusting during the pandemic.
Disgusting is a perfect word. And also, depending on how your algorithm was forcing it down your throat, there were moments during that where people could perceive that they were being told what to do and controlled by a tyrannical government. I'm not saying they
Right.
were, but I can see how people might have thought that during the time, and boom, all of a sudden the Second Amendment means a little more to you, and you're willing to take advantage of your rights and your Constitution,
Right.
or in this case, the
Absolutely.
amendments to your original
The,
Constitution.
absolutely.
We're going to try to keep this to not 4 hours today, folks. I
It could
real
really easy go that
no
way.
this could be a really long one. We're not going to do that. We're going to hit on some key points here. Don't worry, folks. We're not going to drive this down your throat for the whole time. I understand people's reticence against firearms because they do certainly contribute to the amount of intentional accidental deaths or suicides.
I've got some numbers
And
about that too.
I understand that people can believe that if this particular thing causes a bunch of harm, take away the thing because it's dangerous. Okay. But human beings have been finding ways to hurt one another and themselves a lot longer than there's been gunpowder.
Yeah, Cain and Abel.
Right. I was trying to think about it today before we record again. Rocks to clubs to spears to arrows to gunpowder. And in my head, I thought there must have been something between arrows and gunpowder, but I don't think there was.
Yeah, gunpowder had been around, just not used in projectiles before that.
Yeah, but once they realized they could use it for a projectile, that was the purpose of it, right?
Yeah.
Cannons, muskets,
Yep.
guns. You said you had some numbers about the what I was just saying.
Yeah. So the unfortunate part, right? So we get on this topic of, yes, let's talk about gun control and take away, like you said, right? You said it really well. Take away the thing that causes the problems. I don't really agree with you on that. Guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Oh, hold
Okay.
on. Let me be real clear. I wasn't saying that was a effective measure. I was saying I understand that there's people out there who believe that.
Right.
I don't believe that. I
Right.
don't believe in taking a thing away because it causes harm. I don't believe in extra regulate. Just to be clear, I said it because people believe it. I don't believe that. Go ahead.
And you're exactly right. It seems to be the automatic response, right? Oh, this is doing this. We need to take this away. Locks and laws are for honest people, right?
Mhm.
You can take away the thing, but the bad people are still going to get it. So when we come to gun violence in the United States, and it's really hard to get updated information about it because studies aren't really done that way. So we have to work off of the data that we're given. I'm looking at Johns Hopkins, their reports, Center for Gun Violence Solutions. Someone is killed by a gun every 11 minutes in this country. Now, here's the shitty part about that. Over half of them are suicides.
It's an unfortunate, terrible thing.
Right. And it gets worse. So in 2023, right, 46,728 individuals died from gun violence in the United States. 27,300 of them was from suicide, firearm suicide. So the overall gun death rate declined 3.4% from 2022 to 2023, which that's a big deal. Unfortunately, the large majority of the people committing suicide with firearms is people ages 60 to 80. That's the majority of them. And they're mostly white males.
I found an alternative site from pewresearch.org. That's PEW research. The numbers were almost identical.
Right.
Yeah. In
I would
every
hope
way
so.
that you
That
just,
makes me feel good. That means that we're finding honest information.
yeah, folks, that's a left leaning and a right leaning two groups there. They didn't try to fudge the numbers. They were almost identical. So that's something.
Yep.
Now, devil's advocate, you have the people who will say if they didn't have the firearm, they wouldn't have had the ease of suicide.
Right.
People find a way.
Yep. It's either going to be this or it's going to be something else.
Right. And to just double back real quick, you also have the people to say, if there's no guns, there's no guns in the hands of the criminals. That's not how that works.
Right.
Then you have, if you take the guns out of the hands of all the honest people and the only ones who have a hold of them are criminals, then the only people who have firearms are criminals. Like, it's
And that's the shitty part of like where we live. And I'm going to say this outright. I don't like living in Minnesota with their gun laws.
what is it that you don't like?
One, Minnesota carries a law that if you have a registered weapon in your house, they can come to your house at any time and ask to inspect your weapons. If they are found to be stored incorrectly, unsafe, easily accessed, blah, 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 any number of regulation violations, you can get fined or imprisoned.
Really?
Yeah. I also don't like how Minnesota does not have a castle law
What's a castle law?
or a stand your ground law. If somebody breaks into your home and if you sit there and you do not flee while you have the chance and you fire upon that individual, you are still in the wrong. You can still be held legally liable as for murder.
Really? You have to flee your own home, huh?
You have to take the opportunity to flee your own home. Now, I'm going to say this as a Minnesotan living here. I will tell you this honestly. I do not have the time to get all of the people I love that are in my house out safely to retreat. I will not hesitate to put somebody on the ground if they are threatening and breaking into my house and threatening my safety or the family.
Which I believe is probably the opinion of the vast majority of people.
Right. If you have the ability to protect yourself, I think you should. So those are only two laws that I really don't like about Minnesota.
And obviously that's the stand your ground thing is available in a lot of other states. Not all. Certainly there's lots that are very similar to here. There's some that are
right.
Irregardless of what reason you draw down on somebody. Yep. It's going to be a problem. I've noticed that having these conversations since living here nearly 20 years now, I'll be back home in Canada or speaking to somebody from somewhere else who wants my perspective because I grew up without a culture of gun ownership to the point that it is here. And we'll say, like, well, what do you think about all this? I'm like, it's the people's right in varying beliefs to have and own and collect firearms. Right. And my opinion is, like I said at the start, as long as you use them responsibly, it's totally fine. They're like, you would shoot someone who came in and tried to rob you? No. If I wake up in the middle of the night and somebody has my TV in their arms, take it. Got my wallet, got my truck keys, go. The dog will be questionable. But if somebody comes in with the intent of harming somebody, I'm not going to think very long. I'll worry about consequences later. Safety now, court later.
And I'm right there with you. I hold the same beliefs as you. They have to be actually threatening.
Right. Like, I'll sit there. I'll make them a cup of coffee while they collect everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not actively threatening me, I don't want you in here and I want you out as soon as possible, but I'm not going to shoot you for stuff.
Right.
That's not the intent of it.
I'll help you out the door. My TV's kind of big.
Right. I will help you load stuff into your truck if it's not damaging to me or my family. I don't give a shit about things. I believe a lot of people have a hard time understanding that because they think that your first inclination is to have that there so if somebody breaks in, you can take a shot at them.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
But
there are some people that are that way.
Devil's advocate number 2, there are people who are waiting for nothing other than the opportunity to plug somebody.
Yep.
It's absolutely out there. I have a neighbor close by who leaves their garage door open at night, 365 days a year, day and night. I only presume they're just hoping somebody walks in. Because for what other reason would you just leave your cars and all your tools? Has your garage door been broken for 2 years? No. You can manually close it. Like you, it seems to me that person is hoping for somebody. They're either the most welcoming, open person in the world, or they're just asking for somebody to walk in. Certainly there's people like that.
Yep.
But that's not most people.
No, most people don't want to take somebody else's life. That's a really hard thing to do. I don't know what I'd do if I had to do that. I'd probably have a mental breakdown.
Well,
It's hard for me to shoot a deer.
I even have some feelings about that occasionally. I always
Whenever,
think about it for a minute.
yep. After I pull that trigger, I literally have to be like, yeah, I just did that.
Food in the
Shit.
fridge.
Yep.
Food in the
Food in the
fridge.
fridge.
Right?
Food in the fridge. Food in the fridge.
Yes. Anyone, yeah, most people don't love the fact that's happening. It's a cost of doing business, as they say.
Right.
And I didn't mention this the first time we recorded, but I'm going to now because I was a little reticent to put it out in public before. But now that I've had a chance to think about it, I actually think it's a better way to go. I have a starter pistol in my room for races,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
blank, 22 caliber little rounds. They look like mini
And
Keurig cups
ungodly loud.
and loud as all get out. My first go-to if I heard someone in the house, I'm not going for a firearm. I'm going for that.
Yeah.
If that don't scare you out the door, then I might be able to say to myself, all right, you're here with some intent.
Right.
Then make another option.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, I got too many. Once in a while,
You got
folks,
too many tabs?
you just get too many tabs open. John never
Right.
should have showed me all the different things that I could
All
do
the
here.
split screen.
All the split screen stuff. Yep.
I think when it comes to a lot of it, I think the people that have real problems with gun ownership and are what I like to call extremists in that matter, I think they're the people that, one, have never been around firearms. They didn't grow up with it. They didn't grow up with hunting or anything like that. Some places in the country, it's part of the culture. Like,
Very much. Yep.
everybody has a gun. Like it said in Texas, everybody's armed if you're in
Yes,
Texas.
I presume everybody's armed, right? Going to school with the shotgun in the back window because you're going hunting before or after school. Like I heard those stories when I moved here.
I was part of the last class that was allowed to do that. When I graduated high school, and I'll date myself, when I graduated in 99, we were the last class that was allowed. They very quickly banned firearms from school premises and vehicles because that was right behind Columbine shooting. That was the big deal, right? I think that was in 98 or 97.
Yeah, there certainly has been a number of high profile cases like that. Unfortunately, one recently in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
Yes, those things are awful and terrible, and we hope that they never happen, certainly on mass scale. That brings us to, and then once I say this point, we discuss that a bit. I've got some slightly lighter things that we can talk about. Not that it's a light story, but this brings to the point of, I hate to use the words gun control, but that's what everybody uses as the term. There are certainly people out there who are not in a personal, emotional, mental, or psychological state to own a firearm. And one of the most divisive things about this whole subject is how that should be handled.
Right.
I'm not suggesting anything, but just to throw out vague ideas. Should there be more stringent questioning and, I don't know, a psychological evaluation? What do you think can be done to have people who aren't in a mental state for whatever reason to own a firearm from having one in their hand?
I'll say it if you won't. I'll flat out say, yes, I think that we should have psychiatric evaluations done. I think it should be part of the purchasing process. I think the expense should be on the person wanting to buy a gun. I think that paperwork needs to be turned in with your permit to purchase application. I think that should be part of it because we already have to pay. You have to pay application fees and filing fees and stuff like that in order to get a gun in a lot of states.
Right.
And yeah, I absolutely 100% think that having psychological evaluations would 100% help the situation.
What do you say to, and for some reason in my head, this is always a Southern person who says to you, man, you can't tell me which guns I'm allowed to own. That's my right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, man.
It is your right to bear arms. Absolutely. You have to do it legally. That's part of the legal way to do it. Buy all the guns you want. I don't care. Pass the psych eval. If you can't, you ain't buying a gun. Not legally anyway.
I've had a chance to think this out, and I agree with what you're saying. Let me make what might be the most divisive comment of this whole recording. I compare it to the fact that you might, not you, but the person, the purchaser may pass that psychological evaluation if that's what they end up trying with flying colors today. And in a year or two or three, they're no longer in that state. Then you have the people saying, well, it's got to be yearly or it's got to be every three. Now it gets muddy. We
No,
can't even get old people who shouldn't be driving automobiles to have to take their road test again after the age of whatever, let's say 65.
right.
All they got to do, pass the eye test, prove they're not on any drugs regularly that would impair their ability to drive vehicle, and that's not even in every state. It's always just the eye test for sure. We can't even get them to change the law that those people got to come in every year or two. If you pass the eye test, you could be the most dangerous old person driver on the road at 95 and might not have had a road test since the 30s, if they even had them back then. If they can't do it with something simple like that, where there are also a lot of deaths and injuries with vehicles, convincing them on something much more divisive than driver's licenses of firearms, getting anyone to agree to that is, in my head, impossible.
That goes into another analogy to back that one up is really, are you going to get a prostate exam every 6 months? No.
Okay, hold on.
Here's where I'm getting with that,
Okay, yeah,
right?
finish your
I
thought.
want
I'm
to
sorry, finish your
follow
thought.
through.
Yeah.
So you can't force somebody and you can't pre-plan for future instances, right? You can prevent as best you can, but you can't stop future plan. There's no way to cover it. There's no way to be like, no, I know for a fact, Jason, that you're gonna go fucking psycho in 6 months.
It's
Nobody
a real
knows that.
possibility.
Right. There's absolutely no way to tell. Right. So all you can do is prevent as best you can. And that's the front line. That's where it starts. And unfortunately, that's also where it stops. Like,
I perceived this was going to be something that you pushed back on. I'm prepared. I must admit, I'm super happy with the analogy you used. I didn't think it was going to go quite as great for me, so thank you for that. First and foremost, yep, I get what you're saying. You can't plan for the future. You don't know how things are going to change. A, I can't use my prostate cancer to murder somebody like
right.
you could intentionally or accidentally with a firearm or a motor vehicle.
Right.
Let's just be clear. I understand where you were getting at. You can't perceive the future. Yes, that's true. That's apples and oranges, I think, buddy. Okay. But B, here's the problem that I actually originally thought when this point came up was, let's say that someone passes this evaluation and over the next number of years, let's say you have, I'm just gonna pick a number. You have to get mentally assessed as a firearm owner every 5 years. The amount of change that could happen in that time, as you just said, could be dramatic. It could be within a month or 6 or a year. The amount of firearms you could have potentially purchased in that time is whatever.
Substantial.
Right. But now, let's say person A goes in after 3 years and they have their reevaluation, quote unquote, and fails that. Now, who's going to that person's home as a government official, law enforcement officer, whatever, to say, I'm sorry, you have failed the evaluation to continue to be a gun owner, and we got to come in and collect all those. And now the person is in a terrible mental state, and now they got a bunch of guns.
Right.
That's the problem.
And it goes back to what I said is you can't plan. And yeah, if you're going to do that, if you say you're going to be like, oh, now they have to be reevaluated X whenever, there is no way that you're going to regulate that. Absolutely none. The only time that you can have any regulation is on the front end of the purchase. So you can't force somebody to go get reevaluated. What are you going to do? Send them a little letter in the mail saying, hey, your time's up. You got to go make sure that you're still okay to get. No, everybody's going to throw that fucker in the trash. And
Like
then,
a court summons.
and then
Yeah.
are the cops going to go start knocking on all the doors? They don't have
No.
time for that. They're already trying to freaking get rid of the cops. They don't have enough to do that anyway. They don't even have enough to regulate the fucking traffic in this goddamn city. Like,
That's true.
so
Also, man, side note, unpopular opinion. I work on the road. I pay attention to people who are pulled over for whatever reason. I don't know because they've been pulled over. I just drive by them. Man, there ain't a lot of white people.
no, but I will tell you that your fucking group of Ram drivers are really starting to piss me off.
You just notice them.
No, they've gotten really bad out by me because we have a Dodge dealership here in town and we have a Ford dealership. There's a lot of Dodges running around here. And I have more problems with Ram drivers out in my area than I do anybody else. That and Teslas.
All right. Tesla's for sure. I'm a little offended that you'd say my people. Rude about the Ram driver thing. Also, just to your point, you admit there's way more there because there's a dealership close by.
Yeah.
There's more. You just see more bad drivers because there's more numerically bad drivers. That's not Ram. That's not Ram.
That's a Ram driver.
Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You drive a truck that has square wheel wells with round wheels. That's all you need to know about Chevys, buddy.
Mine's not rusting out like yours is.
Neither is mine. You
Floorboards.
You look at everything but the connection to my floorboards on my truck, and you won't find a lick of rust on my truck. I blame the floorboard company that I bought cheap off of Amazon. I don't blame Dodges.
I just like getting you spun up.
I know, and it does work too. I like my Dodge, so I'm partial to it.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, man, I know it's not a light subject, but for a moment, let's turn over to things that could be just a little more giggled at, laughed at about the whole thing, okay?
Sure.
So you originally, when you were talking about the definition of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms to protect yourself, uphold your rights against a tyrannical government as a part of an organized
your
militia.
freedom.
As a part of an organized militia. That's about right? Paraphrasing, obviously, folks.
Paraphrase.
This was also when the government had muskets and you had muskets. And we'll talk about what people own in their homes right now. But the government now has multi-million-dollar stealth aircraft, drone bombers, laser-guided missiles, and crew. It's not a fair fight now. Like, you could have the we know that people have mortars,
tanks,
rocket
functional
launchers,
tanks,
right? Rocket launchers, like
RPGs.
This is also the part of firearm ownership at home that I think is a bit much.
Right.
If you were a collector and you have a Gulf War era or a World War II, whatever era, mortar, rocket launcher, flamethrower, that's, I would say, in my opinion, would be non-functioning. If you say you're a collector, you don't need to fire the damn thing.
Right.
But maybe you need to, but maybe you need to say that you do to prove it if you want to sell it down the road. Okay, like I don't want to get in the weeds the whole thing. But that brings up a point that I think is really important. People don't realize, who aren't firearm owners, who aren't around them, aren't around people who are aficionados and interested in it and hunters and things like that. Firearms are fun. Yeah. It's fun to go to the gun range and shoot guns. Pistols are fun. Rifles are fun. Automatic weapons are fun.
You say that. So I want to bring up a point too that I giggle at this. I think it's bullshit, but I'm laughing at a different country than us. Okay.
My
gentleman. No, not your country.
Go ahead.
Laughing at Europe and Great Britain and the UK. So a gentleman was over here in the States on vacation. He got the opportunity to go to a gun range and fire a gun for the first time in his life. And this guy's like 40. Okay. He posted a picture of it on Facebook with a little tag. I think it said something like enjoying the Second Amendment of America, having a good time at the gun range. He was arrested when he came home for inciting violence. Come on, really? He was at a gun range. I don't know. It's bullshit.
But that's also a country now that, as of the date of this recording, I was just looking it up as you said it, there are, between active cases and people who have been convicted, over 28,000 right now. People in the UK alone for social media posts.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
They've gotten
they
real crackdowny over there, and I
no,
don't
they're
that.
overreaching.
Yeah, for quite a bit. They're overreaching quite a bit.
You can't even fly their flag. You'll get arrested.
Yes, we were saying recently, praying outside will cause you problems, right?
Quietly reading the Bible to yourself will get
Right.
you arrested in public.
Yeah.
No, it's funny when we think of this and we think of the Second Amendment and how it applies to all of us. And it's just, I think Americans have this kind of chip on our shoulder, right? Oh, I can own a firearm and you can't. Nah, 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 nah. Pretty much every other country in the world. And yeah, it's true. Like I enjoy having my guns. I use my guns. My guns are useful. They're not attacking anybody.
I consider them a tool.
They are a tool.
Yeah.
Yep.
98% of my use of firearms is hunting or harvesting wildlife for consumption, not for trophies, although once in a while that's a bonus.
Yep.
And the other 2% is practicing and cleaning other firearms to make sure that I know how to use them accurately and safely should that ever arise.
Yep.
Again, to my point, I don't ever want to do that. Like, I pray to
Yep.
God no one I know ever has to do that. But I'm also, I don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight if it ever comes up
No,
in
absolutely not.
my home, on my property to protect my family.
Yep.
I
Absolutely
just
not.
don't want to do it.
I will say this is where I stand on something here. You will never, ever find me carrying a pistol if I don't need to. I won't carry a pistol when I'm riding my motorcycle. I won't carry a pistol when I'm going out in public. I just don't. I don't see the need of carrying a firearm. Now, I will carry a pistol if I'm like bear hunting.
Oh,
And it's going
if
to be
there's
a
a
big
predator
pistol.
around, that's a different thing, right? Yeah, for sure. Yes, I have no, at this point, I have no interest and I never have gone to get a conceal and carry permit. I don't want to carry it day to day. I live in a place that I'm happy enough I don't feel threatened or worried or scared or anything like that, that I need to have it with me all the time.
I just keep myself out of those situations. I'm not going to look for that shit. I try to be as respectful as I can to people. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but I'm also not looking for a fucking gunfight.
Yeah, that's the last thing I need. I'm not,
Right.
yeah. I like that, how you say that too. Also, while I was doing research for this, man, I saw a picture of a little dog. I think it was a basset hound wearing clothes like a vest, a coat. And on the side of the coat, there was a spot where a person had a pistol sitting in the coat. And the caption was, just so you know, there isn't a state in the union that requires a dog to have a conceal and carry permit or an open carry permit.
Oh my God.
I shouldn't laugh, but the image,
That is
if
amazing.
if I can find it again, I'll post it on socials, folks. That it was like,
That's
that's true. Like,
true.
obviously, the
There's
cops are still
loopholes
going to
to
have some
everything.
questions. And just for a comparison here, folks, from Yahoo Research, there are on average 5,700 bicycle injuries per year over the union. That's slightly more than 10% of the firearm. You don't see anybody trying to ban bicycles.
Right.
I'll tell you, automotive is way more than that. Alcohol, way more than that by a lot. You don't see them trying to make any of those things illegal, more difficult.
Right. We
It's
allow
all
some of the shittiest fucking drivers to operate a fucking rolling coffin house.
right. And let's be honest, folks, if the majority of, and I don't know if this varies from state to state. Is it always 16 you can get your license? Or is there places that it's older? I don't know.
No,
That's pretty
younger,
regular, right? It could be younger.
Well,
but
okay,
most
so
places 16 you can go and apply for your license, right?
yep, South Dakota used to be you could get your license at 14. Up
Right. And
until
then there's
like
the
10
farm
years ago.
states, right? Then there's the farm states where you had to be able to let the younger people operate farm equipment, and if they could do that, they could certainly
We,
drive a pickup truck or whatever, right?
we have that in Minnesota.
That's what I mean. There's certainly that.
Yep. The farm
If
license.
if most 16-year-olds we can admit are distracted, unsafe morons who can drive a motor vehicle that could, with the turn of a hand, hurt God knows
Kill
how many
somebody.
people.
you know.
If you're really that concerned about public safety, maybe you should be 21 before you can drive, or vote, or smoke, or buy alcohol, or in this day and age, THC and the associated products.
Yep.
It just seems, don't get me wrong, you can't kill somebody from 300 yards away with a bottle of whiskey. Like, I understand it's not apples to apples comparison, but I'm just trying to make a point.
I don't know if I drink a bottle of whiskey, Jason, and then I get into behind the wheel of my vehicle and I travel 300 yards and hit somebody dead on, I'm going to kill them.
You can certainly do some damage, right?
Therefore, yes, you can.
That's true.
The bullet travels 300 yards. I'm traveling 300 yards.
The speed at
Talk
which
about
it could
splitting
happen.
hairs.
Yes, talk about splitting hairs. I love you, man. That's good. I think we beat this horse to death, my friend.
I think we did too. Thank you for coming up with this idea. It's an important conversation to both of us, and that's why we wanted to redo it. I listened to it.
Yeah, I was a little drunk last time, folks, and in the last few minutes, we went off on a ridiculous tangent that we could have possibly edited out. But John's right; we were both in a better headspace this time. We had a chance to think of some coherent thoughts and steelman our position in a better way.
Way more clear and concise. I can tell you that much.
As a citizen born and raised in the United States, buddy, I want you to have the last thought here. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to let you wrap us up, okay? But before I do that, I just want to remind everybody, thank you again once for listening with us this week. If you did listen to this whole one, I know it was a little more divisive than normal. Thank you. You can check out everything that's I Saw by going to our website, isawpodcast.com. There you're going to find all our socials. The Buy Us a Beer tab is there where you can buy us one or multiple beers. If you want to help out this slow growing podcast and be named as a sponsor of an upcoming episode, our Be a Guest tab is also there if you want to join John and I for future recording. All of our contact information if you'd like to reach out with feedback or even ideas for future episodes. And of course, our phone number at 507-607-ISAW. That's 507-607-4729, where you can text us directly or leave a voicemail. And if it's a good one, we may even refuse it in a future recording. So that's the biz. Let's just get back to the show. I think that responsible gun ownership, whether for hunting or fun or even home defense or collectors, is perfectly fine as long as it's done within the letter of the law. I don't know that I still agree with the people who have 13 gun safes and 50,000 rounds of ammunition, because you hear about that. And we know people who have a significant amount of both of those things. But it doesn't matter that I agree until they define or change how people can purchase, own, and store firearms and ammunition. People are going to do what they can within their rights and laws, and I think that they should continue to do that. If you are listening to this and you are very anti-gun, please try to remember that most people are using these tools responsibly for useful uses and not in a negative way. Contact your local state or government representative if you think a change needs to be made, and make a coherent case on how it should be changed through research and actual thought, not just your gut emotional feeling of you don't like guns. That's my piece, buddy. What do you got to say?
I like how you said all that. That is 100%. I'm 100% behind you on a lot of that. I think as a card carrying born citizen of the United States, I love the fact that we can own guns. We don't have to have the chance of oppression by larger entities because of it. I think that holds off a lot. You can go back into history and look at a bunch of different countries and see what happened to them. I suggest you go look at exactly how Hitler handled Germany.
Look into Australia.
Look into Australia. The use cases are prevalent. I would suggest anybody that is, like you said, 100% anti-gun, I want you to educate yourself just a little bit on what it actually looks like to own a gun, what we as sportsmen, Jason and I as sportsmen, do for our area in harvesting deer and keeping populations in check. It is important. I think with responsible gun ownerships, you should really understand how all of your state gun laws work, because, and if you're traveling to a different state with a firearm, you need to know that state's firearm laws too, because every state is different. Some of them share a lot of the same laws. I think that's a thing that people tend to forget is there are laws in states, and there are states that don't have very tight laws. I grew up in Wyoming and South Dakota. Gun laws are very loose, very loose. I was able to carry a loaded firearm next to me as I'm not chambered, but loaded as I'm going bird hunting. Can't do that in Minnesota. If you're traveling to your hunting spot, you're supposed to have it in a case, right? That's a no-no. So you need to understand the difference in laws and rules and regulations that you have. And other than that, for the love of God, people, I'm going to say this very intently. Stop calling AR rifles assault rifles.
I knew you were going to mention it
they
again.
are.
Go ahead, buddy.
It's not what the fuck they are. They are Armor Light rifles. It is a brand. It is not an assault fucking rifle. I could hit you with a spoon and it would be considered an assault spoon. Knock it off.
Well said, summed up. Thanks, John. I appreciate you taking the time to get together as always. Thanks, everybody, for listening at least one more time. I know
Absolutely.
it's not entirely accurate to our subject tonight, but as we always say, please remember when you're out there, be safe this week, and remember that your work keeps the world working. And I already laid down all the biz, but if you have any comments or questions or thoughts about what we talked about today, reach out and let us know. We'd be happy to hear from you. Good, bad, or ugly. John and I take all comers. Sound good, pals?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so, yeah, slaunch it, buddy. Cheers, and until next week, thanks, everybody.